Thank you so much for tuning back into another segment here on GEMS Podcast. With me in the hot seat is Tim Heale, and here's a bit about Tim. Having spent most of his adult life under the colors in the British Army, from being an infantry soldier to being an experienced PSYOPS operator and 7 operational deployments, has given him some awesome opportunities. He played a lot of rugby, and his position was at scrum half. He is also a ski telemark and having completed several times at the British Telemark Championships. He was a hang gliding instructor. He played American football for Milton Keynes Pioneers, and he is also a reasonably experienced offshore sailor and has owned 3 boats, sailed around the UK with just his wife and Artie, the ship's cat. So without further ado, please welcome Tim Heale to GEMS Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So, Tim, we're going to go ahead and do a rapid fire game. So it's rapid fire for a reason. It's 10 questions to just kind of get the neurons firing. So think quick on your toes. Don't spend a lot of time. Just kind of go with the first answer that pops in your head, because it's all about you, and it definitely gives the audience a chance to connect with who you are before we dive in.
Rugby then. You have to think on your feet as a scrum half.
Yes. So question number 1, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Gosport.
Question 2. Question 2, are you a coffee or tea drinker?
Coffee.
Question 3, you just won the lottery, but you must donate to 3 charities before you get your actual winnings. What charities are you contributing to?
Tickets for Troops, the Cat Protection League, and Help for Heroes.
Question number 4, if you could recreate any significant moment in your life, what would it be?
Oh, there's dozens of those. Surviving a bomb blast in 1977 in Belfast.
Ooh. Question 5, if you could hop in a time machine and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Live your life to the full, as you do.
6, are you an Apple or Android user, or maybe hybrid?
I'm Apple, through and through. Break me in half, it says Apple all the way around.
7, favorite food?
Oh, that's a good question. Loads. Loads of food.
8, you're on a deserted island. There is a gift shop. Your funds are limited, and you only could buy 1 article. Here are the options: 2 bananas and a mango, a t-shirt, or your favorite CD. What item are you purchasing?
Food.
Okay. 9, is there a person that you would love to have interviewed on your podcast?
My great-granddad.
And 10, our pass or play question. Here are the rules. If you pass, our rules are reversed and you get to ask me a question. If you choose to play, I ask one last question to solidify rapid fire. So do you want to pass or play?
Play.
Okie dokie. If you could recreate your wedding day, is there something you would change? And if so, why?
Which wedding? The last one was almost perfect. The weather was right. The temperature was right. The food was great. The surroundings was awesome. Yeah, that's couldn't change much about that day at all. I had a great day.
Amazing. And thank you for playing rapid fire, Tim. Now let's segue into our topic. I know you spent some time in the British Army. You're also a podcast host. What is something else about yourself that makes you a wild card factor that obviously my community doesn't know?
Oh, that's a good one. Where do I go with this? So I've recently started where I was just doing audio with my podcast, I now do video with my podcast. So I've doubled up on the amount of work that I have to do. So not only you can listen to my podcast, you can also watch them. How's that?
That's really interesting. So, was it a challenge for you to go from just doing audio to video? Because some people are afraid of doing video because they're like, oh my gosh, everything has to be just right. But in actuality, as long as you're putting out content, the right audience is going to gravitate to it.
Yeah, the reason I got into it, it was the way I record. So I like, because we ended up into lockdown and all the rest of it, I had to find a way of recording my podcast because else they was going to dry up. So I started off with I tried different platforms, Riverside, Squadcast, and then I picked up on, I tried Zoom, and I tried, what's the other one, Skype, and they just didn't work for me. I had problems with them, one thing and another. And then I got on to StreamYard, and I just fell in love with StreamYard, and I do all my recordings now on StreamYard. It gives me great video at 1080p, and it gives me great audio because I can drop down individual tracks for the people I'm recording. So when I do the edit, I'm editing Adobe Premiere Pro for the video, and I'm also doing Adobe Audition for the recordings, for the voice, and then I upload it onto YouTube and onto Buzzsprout, and Buzzsprout then puts it across on all the popular podcast apps.
And tell us about your inspiration to get into the podcasting space. Start with the inspiration of the name, which is obviously your name, why you felt the need to start podcasting, and what the core pillars of your show are, or your niche.
Okay. The reason I got into it in the first place was I was playing with Ancestry, and I was looking at my family's history. I came across my great-grandfather, who actually died in 1930, but he lived not far from where I live now, and he was a chief stoker in the Royal Navy. And I thought it'd have been great if I'd have gone back and had a chat with him. Well, this time we've gone into lockdown, and one of the skill sets that I used to have was recording and editing audio. So I thought, well, if I don't tell my story, like my granddad, it'll be lost forever. So I sat down, and I'd heard about podcasts, done a little tiny bit of research. I thought, well, I can do that. So I started to record my life history. So if any of your listeners out there are struggling with that, oh, my mind's going, it's because I'm getting so old. Suffering from not being able to go to sleep. What's that called?
Oh, insomnia.
Insomnia. Thank you so much. I've forgotten that. So if they're suffering from insomnia, just put one of my podcasts on, and I'll be out in minutes. So I did 24 half-an-hour episodes of my life, which is enough to bore anybody stupid. And I got to the end of that, and I thought, well, what do I do now? So I did a couple of other episodes of in-depth stuff that I did. And I thought, well, we're still in lockdown. What do I do now? Well, why don't I start doing other people? So the first person I did was my mother. So I got my mother to tell her story, and we had a good chat. And then I started doing other people. And my basic format that I start everyone with is I ask people when and where they were born, and then I ask them to describe what it was like when they grew up, the schools they went to, and the education that they received. And then I make them really think hard and rattle their grey matter a bit, and I pull out some real little gems and nuggets that I'd forgotten about donkeys years ago. And then we move on then to looking at the work life history, and we'll do the same with that. We'll have a chat. We'll bring out some bits and pieces that they've forgotten, and then we'll have a talk about something if they've got a book out or they just want a chat about something. Then that's what we'll do. We'll have a chat about something, and they generally last anything from sort of 20 minutes to an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, wow. So it could either be a short or a long-winded show.
Yeah, I don't really put a time limit on it. I guess about average is about 50 odd minutes.
Okay.
And every single one is different. Every single one is fascinating. I haven't had a bad interviewee yet.
And I like the fact that whenever you started off your podcast, you kind of started similar to myself. I did a bunch of solo episodes. Mine were really around grief after just losing my father to medical negligence, and just podcasting about, how I felt was a way to really get, my emotions out and, those thoughts out of my head into something that can be helpful. Not just for me, but other people who found it helpful. And I had no idea that other people who also lost loved ones in the pandemic was resonated with the real, the raw, and, just getting down to the nitty gritty, because there's different forms of grief. And then it also allowed the audience that was starting to build traction to build credibility with who I was as a podcaster. And sometimes people think that, oh yeah, I want to start a podcast, but they don't know all the things that go on behind the scenes. Like, some people edit their podcast. That could be very timely, especially if you're doing it yourself versus outsourcing it. When it comes to graphics, your cover art, and just solidifying a cover art that you want to use, or the cover art that you want to use for each episode, show notes, promoting, the marketing. There's so many things that go involved in podcasting. And I tell people, if you want to start a podcast, do it because you're passionate about it and you want to create that transformation, not just in your life, but other people's life. And you're not trying to be another man or woman in the podcasting space. You're truly trying to be your unique self within the podcasting space, because the podcasting space is very saturated. I think there's about 2.8 million podcasts per what I saw on www.listennotes.com. And just to get yourself to stand out can be hard. But I tell people, if you pay attention to the metrics, sometimes you lose sight of where you're going. So do you have any other tips you want to add on to that, Tim?
For me, it's not about getting to the top of any list or anything like that. It's not about getting them listened to. I do it purely because I want to leave a legacy for future generations. So in 100 years' time, somebody, maybe one of my great-great-grandchildren will be doing a project at school, and they come across that my great-great-granddad did this with his life. And you can see him talking about it. You can, and that's what I'm all about. Not bothered about making money, because I get a pension. I'm a pensioner. So for me, it's about producing really good quality content, really good quality audio and visual, and it's leaving that legacy for future generations. It's funny, the guys on Podmatch, Alex, he was on about that you need to work out who your avatar is and to focus in on producing content for that avatar. Well, my avatar hasn't been born yet. So I'm doing it for future generations to use as a resource to look back in history, because today will be history in 10 years' time, in 100 years' time, in 500 years' time. This will be history, and we don't have that, or we haven't got that opportunity to look back at 100 years of ordinary people with extraordinary stories.
Thank you for sharing. And legacy is very important. I truly believe in leaving a legacy because I ask people, if you don't know your purpose, then you're not really tapping into your mission while you're here on earth. Because I truly believe that each one of us was born with a specific purpose that we need to fulfill before we depart the earth. And sometimes people don't know what their why is. They don't know what they're called to do. They don't know why they're in existence, and they have so many questions because sometimes it's not like they're taking time to really do the inward work so they can manifest and materialize what they want externally, to really leave that imprint, but allow that imprint to drive an impact in order for that ripple effect to take place, or the domino effect, because it's about how can we be ourselves, how can we tap into our skills, our gifts, and our talents. And I come from a religious and spiritual background, and there was a story in the Bible where God gave the different people different gifts. And one of the guys, instead of maximizing his gifts and potential, he buried it. But everyone else went on to maximize and double, triple their gifts. And, God rewarded them because they knew how to steward what they were given. But in life, how many times do we as individuals have something that we're amazing at, but we don't want to pull it out because we don't know what other people are going to think or say, when in actuality, those people may not be with you for the lifelong journey. So why are you seeking validation and appeasement from others?
Absolutely. So that's my mission in life. And I've also started doing a Thirsty Thursday live stream. I go live on a Thursday evening. Why I got myself into that, I'm not quite sure, but I'm having a lot of fun at it. And I have guests coming on each week, and we talk about all sorts of rubbish. So some weeks we just have talking about rubbish, which is open forum. Other weeks I have a special. So we've done veterans, military, mental health specials. We've done mental health specials. We've done boating specials. I've done election specials. We had local elections here in the UK a few weeks ago, and I invited on the local potential councillors to come on the show, and I had 4 of them turn up, and we had a really good discussion talking about local issues, what they had, what they've done for the local area, what they're looking at doing for the local area, and that was quite a successful one. And this evening I've got one where I'm talking to some guests, previous guests I've had on my show. So I've invited them back to have a chat, and I'm not quite sure what we're going to talk about yet, but I think podcasting may come into it.
Oh, okay, awesome. And I'm glad that you're doing that, because I see a lot of diversity there based on the people that you bring on. So that diverse thought, diverse background, diverse cultures, and etc. And just whenever you begin to intersect, you can connect the dots for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Because sometimes hearing the same old thing over and over gets very mundane and boring. But whenever you switch it up, or like I say, shake it up, it definitely makes things easier to digest and makes people want to come back for more. Now we're going to jump into the call to action part of this segment. So Tim, as you know, we totally did this ad hoc. We did not have a subject in mind, but since we're both podcasters, I just wanted to hear about your journey. So what is your call to action for our audience today?
Well, my call to action is, well, now this is I watch an awful lot of stuff on YouTube. I listen to quite a lot of podcasts, and the one thing that kind of amazes me is that somebody can have so for instance YouTube. So you're watching a YouTube and you've got the like button, and you've got a subscribe button, and you've got a comments. The amount of people that watch it to the amount of people that click the like button or subscribe or put a comment is minute compared with the people that watch it. The numbers just don't correlate. So for me, it'd be really, really nice if people watch your content and just click the like button. It costs nothing to click the like button. But to subscribe to the channel would be even nicer, so they wouldn't miss seeing your content that you're pushing out. So that's my kind of call to action, is to encourage people just to click the like button and subscribe to your channel, and put a comment. Now that would be really nice if you work really hard to produce really good quality content, and people watch it, but they don't put a comment. They don't say they liked it or it's rubbish, get off. So that's my call to action, for people to just click.
I completely agree. Digital currency is free whenever you are liking, commenting, and subscribing on someone else's creativity, because if they see you do that, they will return it back in digital currency. At least I do, especially when I see people come on to, my YouTube channel or Instagram, and they take time to leave a comment. I'm going to respond back because they didn't have to take time to leave a comment. So Tim, how can our audience connect with you via your website, and plug your social media handles where you primarily hang out?
Well, they can go on my YouTube channel, which is the Tim Heale Podcast, Ordinary People's Extraordinary Stories. They can go on any of the real popular podcast apps, so Apple, Google, you name it, it's on there. Spotify, I'm on the whole lot. Pandora for the Americans. So just type in the Tim Heale Podcast or Ordinary People's Extraordinary Stories, and it'll pop up there, and listen to your heart's content. There's over 150 episodes at least at the moment. I'm currently sat at number one as a host on Podmatch. I'm in the top 10% of podcasters globally on Listen Notes. So somewhere along the line, I think I'm doing something right.
Amazing. And I will have all of your contact information in the show notes. For those of you who are just listening to the audio component, I am going to spell Tim Heale's last name for you. So it's H as in Henry, E as in Edward, A as in Alpha, L as in Lima, E as in Elizabeth, Heale. So not like the heel of your foot, but a different type of heel. And he was our special guest today. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Our content is on 40 plus platforms. You could also see all things video components by heading on over to our YouTube channel, which is at Gems with Genesis Amaris Kemp. And lastly, but not least, I want to thank each one of you for tuning in on a consistent basis to support the guests that I bring on, as well as the mission behind the show, which is to continually bring you topics that are educational, inspirational, and motivational, while we weave in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And it brings me to the need for sponsorships. We are currently ranked in the top 2.5% globally out of 2.8 million podcasts per listennotes.com. And we are looking for sponsors. Space is limited, so find out more info by heading on over to genesisamariscamp.net, clicking on that podcast tab, and learning more how you can support. Until next time, peace, love, and lots of blessings. Have yourself an amazing day.